I'm Josh Capitanio, Assistant Professor of Religious Studies here at University of the West. I teach Buddhism and Chinese religion.
Hi, I'm Miroj Shakya. I'm an adjunct faculty of the Department of Religious Study, and also I'm a Ph.D. candidate. I'm also working on a digital Sanskrit Canon as a project coordinator.
Yeah, well, I mean, translation is, I guess, really important in the history of Buddhism. That's the means through which the Buddhist Dharma has spread. It's kind of doing translation, I guess there's no one single methodology for doing translation because it depends on the audience often. And this is kind of, I think, an ongoing debate in Buddhist studies is, the status of translations intended for an academic audience, which are generally very philological and have lots of explanatory footnotes and intertextual references, and the concern of the translator is with sort of reproducing the original text in this maybe very literally, versus translations intended for a so-called popular or practitioner audience, where the responsibility of the translator is regarded as being perhaps more interpretive, to actually facilitate their audience's understanding of this text and their ability to relate it to some sort of practice. And so I think one of the kind of interesting phenomena of Buddhism in the West nowadays is that a lot of the translation, historically translations were done by monks and scholars, people who were practicing Buddhists who brought these texts to new countries and translated them, and now we have a lot of translations being done by scholars who are treating them with a much more disinterested perspective, and who, at least the sort of stereotype is that maybe scholars are not as much, their intention is not so much to make the audience understand the contents of the, to make it easy for audience to understand the translated text, but rather to give the audience the same experience of reading that text as the person who was reading it in the language from which it was translated would have. So being very faithful to the use of language and the use of metaphor, and not necessarily translating some of the sort of cultural modes of expression that would appear in a Chinese or an Indian or a Japanese or Tibetan text that would perhaps be sort of foreign to a modern audience. So translation, it's kind of an interesting, one of these areas in which it's important to scholarship, it's important to practitioners. There do seem to be, generally speaking, two sort of separate ways to translate for each of these groups, and even two separate bodies of translated texts that often, scholars almost very deliberately choose not to read the translations published by like a Shambhala press or practitioner-oriented translations, and likewise maybe a lot of practitioners are simply not aware of these scholarly translations, or not willing to spend $150 for a Brill Publications 500-page monograph on the sutra. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, our digital Sanskrit Canon, so we provide the first-hand manuscript, like an original manuscript. So people who are interested, who has a language skill, they can have that copy of the first, like the original manuscript, and they can translate it, and we're gonna give them, and they can publish diplomatic edition or descriptive. They can do whatever they like, but we're gonna facilitate with our manuscript for scholars. So our project, we are intending the scholar to come and get the original manuscript and start translating. So our second phase after this transliterature project, we will publish more translated edition of what we have so far. So this is second phase. So the budget is the issue. We are going to have a network of Buddhist scholars who are expert in Sanskrit.